Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And we've got two teams. One that's a little bit out of form, but people have had Game Week 5 ringed for them for a long time. The other one's very much in form, or are they? Let me introduce you firstly to our Newcastle United correspondent, Simon Bibby. How are you, Si?
I'm good, James. How you doing?
Yes, very well. Thank you, mate. And our Brentford correspondent, Tom Meds here. How are you, Tom?
Not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all.
So, Si, you beat Villa 5-1 opening day. It's like, oh, hello. Nil points since in the three games since. Disappointed, expected. It can't be expected now, surely.
No, I mean we talked pre-season about the fact it was a difficult opening four, but I also said that I felt like we could have probably won every game as well if things went our way. And first one obviously went our way. Wasn't expecting 5-1, and then I think it was really the Liverpool game was the only one I would say was probably very disappointing and a bit of a shock in terms of how the game played out. And going to Man City and losing is what it is. And we've always struggled a bit against Brighton when they're on it. Their style of play kind of a bit like Brentford, really. Just we sometimes struggle against that. And if we're not on it like we weren't, we've got the potential to get well beaten. And I think after the first 10 minutes, that was the case. So really, it's just the Liverpool game, which is annoying because I think I mentioned it before. My dad's a Liverpool supporter, and we have money on the games every year. And I really felt like this year was going to be the year that I, apart from beating him at FPL, I was going to take some money off him for beating Liverpool. But Nunes, I can't stand him.
The performances were the bigger letdown rather than the results.
Yeah, I think
That's the feeling I've had come across to me.
yeah, there's something not quite right. I think it's more maybe the intensity, concentration. It'll be interesting to see once we've got our first Champions League game out of the way, whether that has an impact. And obviously, we've got a big game before AC Milan this weekend. But I think the intensity is not quite there. Focus isn't, and even now, like last year, we had a dream run with no injuries to our defense really, and you've already seen like Botman kind of miss a game, and it might just be that kind of season where we just the luck's not with us.
That was the position we had concern if you had injuries, mate. Botman or Share was the one area it felt like, oh, not sure you can replace that with the same quality.
Yeah, I don't even know how much the club really tried. I think we got to a point where we identified our targets, spent our money, and probably tried to do a couple of loan deals, but there wasn't anything that was there. But yeah, definitely was a concern going in that we were a bit short of centre back, and it's already proved to be the case.
Yeah. Tom, this is a good start. I'm beaten after four. Still haven't lost a game without Ivan Toney for like forever. But it's three home games without a win. So I don't. How do we evaluate this?
I mean, yeah, if we could stop drawing games, it'd be great. We do love. I mean, even last year and year before, just love a draw, don't we? But probably games. I mean, a couple of them we should have won. I mean, the Bournemouth game was what we hit the post three times, and it was another day we win that game comfortably, and Rico Henry doesn't absolutely balls up going backwards. Then we win the game. Well, we will win the game, and a chance not falling for us, but not bad, not awful. I mean, as you said, we've not lost a game yet, which is always positive, and they'll fall for us at times. So I think the win against Fulham was really good. That sort of showed what we can do, and the fact we don't have old Ivan up top, it's not a bad start at all, I don't think.
You're also winning all three of those games at one stage or another. Does that tell us of a bigger problem?
No, I think we're like Ben Mee was out obviously first few games. Obviously Collins came in. And actually I thought he played really well, but sort of obviously with Collins coming in, it being a new pairing with Pinnock, and then Mee was fit in the last game against Bournemouth, and they sort of just threw him back into the starting lineup. And I think it was just sort of it's just mixed up quite a bit in the centre backs. Obviously playing with new goalkeeper as well. I think it's just sort of easing it in, getting it more settled. But I think now Mead's back fit, and we've got it's a bit more of a settled back line, then should hopefully be slightly better.
Okay, cool. So this Champions League draw, was that, oh my God, shit, or was that, oh wow?
Oh wow, for sure. Like
Yeah.
I think you must have felt. I can't remember who you got the first time you got into the Champions League, but yeah, what an incredible group. No, happy.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
happy.
the first time we got in, and I know obviously you've been in it before, but it's been a good 20 years.
Oh, wow.
We had the Italian champions, the German champions, and the Dutch champions, but it didn't have the glamour of what you've just pulled out.
Yeah, it's the grounds.
I mean,
think
for the away trips as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah, amazing. It's a shame that the clubs decided to kind of balls up the ticket allocation system this year. But as someone that's kind of never been around, and I'm not often like in the UK or can get to games, so I'm not in that kind of group of people that's likely to ever get like Champions League tickets and stuff. Yeah, fantastic. I'm super happy that that's the kind of the three grounds. You couldn't really pick three better ones other than, you know, obviously a trip to Spain probably be the only one that you would do. And the fact that we got Milan as well and got our you know, some of our board members talking about seeing Mackems in Milan and stuff is, you know, it's icing the cake, really.
I hear Tonali might not make the big Milan game though. Apparently it's a bit of a doubt. It pulled out of the Italy game at the weekend.
Okay, news to me. As I said, I've been like busy with work and stuff, so I don't really know what's going on. They'll, you know, if he's not fit to make it, then Sean Longstaff will just come in and
I love that.
Play a blinder.
Is that and listen, Longstaff was really important for you last year, but does that kind of give an indication of some of the problems that you might face going forward in terms of the is that a big disparity in quality, or is it just to trust that no, Longstaff will come in, he'll do the job?
No, I think Tonali's still learning the system. I think if you've watched the 4 games at the start of the season, I don't think that midfield unit's kind of clicked yet. I think they're still kind of like learning each other and how to play together and the pressing, and they're all kind of individually have made like some silly mistakes. And, you know, we were talking pre-season about Elliot Anderson potentially starting, and yeah, I still think, I wonder if, you know, obviously we won 5-1 in the first game, but it feels like we're kind of missing a bit of running power, and Tonali is obviously providing that to a certain extent, but take Sean Longstaff out of the team and Bruno's not quite got the same protection as he had. So I think they're still figuring it out. I think Howe will stick with the 3 as and when they're fit and just kind of, you know, get that repetition in them and keep playing those 3. I think they're clearly his first choice when fit.
Does the draw bring concern though about the Premier League? Once the draws happen and the excitement's calmed down, you start thinking, oh, that's a headache in terms of trying to replicate what you did in the Premier League last year, this year. Does that factor in or not?
Yeah, I think it's always been considered a struggle. I don't know if you've watched that Newcastle documentary that came out on Amazon Prime. It's quite interesting. Like quite a few comments between, you know, the senior executives were talking about like second season syndrome once you get into the Champions League and how difficult it's going to be to replicate and things like that. So all this talk of like Eddie Howe being under pressure. It's pressure in the sense of how like Newcastle used to be when, you know, under Bobby Robson and Dalglish and Souness, when you lost 3 games in a row, there's pressure. And I think that's slightly different to what we've had in the last however many years under like Ashley and definitely under Howe as well. I think we've kind of moved beyond the kind of like the takeover expectations into something else. So you keep losing games, you're going to get under pressure, but I don't think that's going to come from within. I just think we've like had, you know, tough games to start the season, haven't quite been on it. I think we took our eye off the ball after Villa and then the Man City game, and then Liverpool. I think we just felt sorry for ourselves against Brighton. You could tell after the first 10 minutes when, you know, Isak should have maybe scored once or twice, and then things started to not go our way. We saw it a bit last season, just not like consecutively over a couple of games. So I'm not worried. I think we'll still have a really good season. I think we'll have some amazing Champions League moments. I think we just probably need to get that first game out the way, and then hopefully things will start clicking.
So I'm hearing all that. Does that give you increased confidence going into Sunday?
We'll see what team they put out. I think really is going to be the game on the one for me on Sunday, because obviously his players going to get rested pre the game in Milan. Whether that's, you know, whether it's the sort of the focus is on Milan in the midweek rather than us. That's would, you know, that's
he's not resting players. I think if they're fit, the interesting one would be with Wilson. I think if we hadn't had an international break and whether he'd have come back in, I think potentially, but given the fact he's not trained with the team, I think he might just go again if everyone is fit. And if not, I think the team kind of picks itself and the reserves pick themselves at the moment.
And thank you, Ty, for reminding me to say, yes, we are pre-recording this on Tuesday afternoon prior to the Tuesday night international. So when Callum Wilson's done his hamstring at Hampden Park, that's irrelevant. We obviously don't know if that's the case at the moment. Is it back 5 for you, Tom, Sunday? Is it the usual playing a more established opponent?
More than
it's
like,
5-3-2?
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't him. It does make sense. Yeah, especially with the front three that you guys have got. I would imagine and wouldn't be surprised if it was back 5.
But that takes over the debate over the centre backs because presumably me obviously came back in. Collins will just play as well, won't he?
I'd imagine Collins would just come in, slot into the middle, and just join it really. Chris Fire's been back recently, but I just think Collins, the fact that he played the first 2 games over and he was fit, it just makes sense. Collins comes in. So and to honest, Collins looked good when he played. So I was actually surprised he got dropped for the Bournemouth game straight away because I thought he's been. To be honest, I think it's been excellent in the first few games that he's played, and then obviously me fit come back in, but maybe Frank just wants obviously that partnership with me and Pinnock just to continue while Collins is sort of naturally coming into the team rather than sort of getting
Where
thrown
does Collins
into it.
go? Does he go in the middle of that 3 then? At the back? Pinnock to the right, me to the left?
I'm trying to remember which way around it is because me and Pinnock are both left-footed, aren't they? So I'd imagine even and then Collins is right-footed. So I think I'd imagine putting me in the centre and then Collins on the right-hand side. I think I got that right way around.
I wouldn't have thought because me's always left of Pinnock, isn't he? You got me questioning myself now, Tom.
Yeah, no, well, now I'm questioning myself, but yeah, I'd imagine.
Tom doesn't know.
Well,
we haven't seen the 3 of them play together yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm just trying to
partly guessing, and I guess is that the case up front? The assumption here would be that Kevin Sade would miss out. Is there any? Should your own Wissa owners have concern here?
I wouldn't say not now, not right now. Sade's looked better. Obviously, the goal that was taken recently against Palace. I want to say Palace.
Yes, great goal.
Yeah. Obviously, Sade's looking better and better. Vissa's looking fine. And Johnson, I think all the front 3 are playing really well together as a front 3. So I think that front 3 is what it will be for the time being. The 2 up top is obviously going to be Mbeumo. And then it's just, I'm not going to say for definite it's going to be Wissa over Sade. I think at the moment it would make sense. And I can't see why Wissa would miss out. Because I think obviously the fact he's playing more centrally would make sense that he obviously continues playing centrally up top. But obviously Sade's pace is an absolute joke. So whether at some point there's certain games where we do go to back 5 and he targets certain players using the speed of Sade, which obviously is something that Wissa and Mbeumo don't have as much.
Is there any chance that all 3 would play in the system and he'd play Mbeumo at right wing back? Is there any possibility of that at all?
No. So the only time he ever really does that is when he starts a back 5 and then wants to become more attacking. So for example, I think it was last year when we went 1-0 down. I can't remember who exactly it was, but we went 1-0 down and basically it was about 60 minutes in and it was, right, take Hickey off, send Mbeumo to the right. Actually, wait, was it not against you lot first game of the season? Actually, he did that. Because we played 5 back and then...
I don't know, I'd had a few. I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm sure there's been a game very recently where basically we start with a 5 back.
I think when you were chasing a game, he'd done it. I mean, he might have even done it against Bournemouth. I didn't see a lot of the game.
What usually happens is Hickey comes off and Mbeumo goes to the right wing back. Janelt will drop to centre back, so it's basically sort of like a more attacking centre back sitting in the middle, and then like a more attacking player will go into the centre, followed by throwing on another attacker instead. So usually centre back off for an attacker, and then Mbeumo moving to right wing back with Hickey coming off as well. So no, he definitely wouldn't start with that. Okay. I mean, Hickey and Henry, I'd imagine, pretty solid.
So Mbeumo owners, could you make any case for them to bench him this week? It's obviously a tough fixture.
No, absolutely
There'll be
not.
people sitting there with 8 good attackers and going, "Oh, he's the one with a tough fixture,"
and then he'll get the penalty and score it. So,
okay.
Yeah, I would never bench. Well, personally, I would never bench a penalty taker just because it's going to be pain if it does get one. So,
I mean, you wouldn't go playing Colton Morris at Fulham ahead of him or anything like that, no? For the benefit of the audio listeners, Tom's pissing himself. There's just nothing coming out of his mouth.
No, yeah, there's just utter silence of shock, I think, on that one. So no, definitely not. Yeah, but definitely wouldn't be playing Carlton Morris over what is he? Second top scorer in the Premier League at the moment.
What would you say to non-Mbeumo owners at the moment?
So it's like I obviously am incredibly biased, as you are aware, and anyone who's ever listened to me. So I'm
No,
obviously going
we've
to
not
say
noticed,
go.
Tom.
No, exactly. I'm also going to say go and buy him, but I think we've still got good fixtures after the Newcastle game. It's not awful. Like I think the fixture run for us up until like still going forward is really pretty good, and it's sort of one of those where I guess the problem now is obviously because his price is going up. It's when it's have you missed it, if that makes sense? I'm not sure whether if you do go for him, or you just point chasing, but
Yeah, I mean the run's still good. Like after this 7th Forest, then you got another tough away game, Manchester United, next Burnley at home. It feels a little bit like that at the moment. Too good, one really difficult and stuff. But therefore, the formers are over a longer period of fixtures, like over the next 5. That's fine because the other 3 fixtures, by the St James's and Old Trafford trips, are great on paper, right? And you look at them and think, not sure I want a bit of that. But he's probably not by this week ahead of Newcastle away.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But he's definitely. I mean, the following was say Everton's afterwards.
At Everton at home and then Forest away, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be hiding behind yourself if you don't own him, especially because I mean his ownership's is pretty up there now as well.
I've got about hiding, Tom. Like I walk down the street at night, absolutely fine. I'm okay with myself. It's probably regrettable in hindsight that he's not sitting there, but it's not. I don't think it's a conversation for me to be had this week. It might be a conversation next week, but I can see myself continuing without him. To be honest, it's not because I think he's a bad asset. It's just I think my attention's just drawn in other places.
Yeah, I guess I guess obviously most people will either be on. I guess similar was at the start. Obviously, people are up Matoma or Mbeumo, and if you're on a Matoma, it's sort of not really a big issue, is it? Because it's sort of he can off at any point. I guess more of the worry on that one is with their focus, obviously, on Europa League as well. You know, Brian Mbeumo is going to play 90 minutes every single week. He's on penalties, whereas you've got then comparables, obviously slightly different now because he's gone up in price. But say your Matomas, or does he get rotated? Is he going to play every single week and similar price players like that?
It's like when you'd think about it. So I'm a perfect example. I'm glad you use it. I'm a Matoma owner. Say, this way, Matoma goes to United. It's not great. But then the entry point from Mbeumo is like, next week, right? And Mbeumo's got Everton home. Yeah, but Matoma's got Bournemouth at home. Feels a bit sideways because exactly what you said, right? Matoma at any point and stuff as well. And then by the time I've let that go, I start thinking, well, Villa are coming into really good fixtures. I start looking at Diaby or something like that. Yeah. That's
I've just remembered that my pre-season plan was to wildcard in game week 5, and I just haven't looked at it.
You can still do it, Si. Nothing's stopping you. The deadline's not here yet, mate.
I'm just looking at the
price rises really don't matter as much this season unless you've got like Salah and Trent and stuff like that. I don't think anybody's really scraping the barrel.
What would you do, Tom, if you were going to wildcard? Would you leave him in? Because I've got him in Mbeumo at the moment. Would you?
You're asking the wrong person, Si.
Yeah, you are definitely asking the wrong person. Yeah, I mean, he just isn't a sell. I mean, we can. It depends where you want to go. I mean, I'm probably going to sell Hickey at some point soon. But to be honest, that's probably to make way for another Brentford attacker because I just feel like the
shit this week.
I think I'll cover that for you, Si. I think if I was wildcarding now, it would be Mbeumo or Diaby. Be one or the other. And then it's probably part of that, I think, is looking further ahead and going, well, I kind of want to get Villa Liverpool players at the same time, and I might want to go back to Tottenham at that point as well. Yeah. And then so if you just go Diaby, it's one less one to think about. Not that Mbeumo won't just tick over great, and like you can't just leave him there. Like absolutely.
Well, the plan was to always jump on my Newcastle assets this week, and to be honest, I don't know if there's going to be a better time because they're just so unpopular at the moment. I'm just having a look at transfers in, and they're like nowhere to be seen. So that was like the thinking. I was going to do. I
think in pre-season side, the general consensus on your assets was, and it's part why you're sitting here now, was game week 5, Newcastle, Brentford at home. Not the easiest fixture, but the start of a good run, I think it's fair to say. Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, Burnley at home, West Ham away, Palace at home, Wolves away. Like that is a brilliant run of fixtures. You're looking at a run of 6 games there on West Ham aways. only because it's away, Tom, before you get your knickers in a twist. He's the hardest one on paper there, basically. So that's why people ringed it. But there's two things majorly that have put people off. One is the performances, I think, more than the results over the last 3 games. Because as I said, in the equivalent 3 games last year, you only got 1 point. It's not like you're miles behind on year expectation. But this draw as well, and the knowledge to know that you'll go with whatever Howe's belief is of full strength in the Champions League. And that's not to say a Wilson or Isak, Wilson might play against Milan, for example, or something like that. But looking at it now and going, I don't know if there's anyone there that's first choice. And I now trust to be playing things like Sheffield United away and Burnley at home, and when there's Champions League games around that. That's what's made it awkward now.
Yeah, I think it is. To be honest, it's kind of put me off. It's just the uncertainty, really, of defensively with this Botman injury, and I don't know what the prognosis is on him coming back.
Well, he obviously didn't play for the Netherlands, but all the reports in leading up to the Brighton game was he was close. He was close. He was only doubtful and stuff. But I don't know if that was part masking, i.e., maybe Eddie Howe knew that he was going to be out. I don't know.
I think it's an ankle problem, so it's kind of. I think it's just a case of like when it feels better, then you go through certain processes of training, then you're good to go. All right, so it could be this weekend. Could be maybe missing 1 more week. Could come back for AC Milan. Not sure. It'd be nice if he came back for Milan, given the fact that he was almost joined them.
Well, the interesting thing with him and Cher is they probably are the two that you'd look at, and we could probably add Nick Pope to that. You could look at with real confidence and say, "Oh, they're definitely going to play all these games." I think weekend and the Champions League. Or would you have any doubts about that?
You think Trippier's going to get rotated now because
that's part of the question. So you tell me if you think Kieran Trippier is going to play Saturday, Tuesday, all through this next 2-3 month period. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think he's going to play until we're in a position where the pressure's off a bit. I don't think Howe's going to rest Trippier if results aren't going our way, we need to pick up points in the Premier League. So yeah, I'd say if you've got the money, it's not. I mean, if I was going to wildcard, I'd put him in.
You'd go Trips, yeah.
I think you need that offensive threat, given the fact that we don't look like we're going to be keeping clean sheets, and like across the league, like who do you want to spend the money on in defence?
You say you're not keeping clean sheets, but despite the fact you've had 4 tough fixtures, and Villa's worth considering in that as 4 tough fixtures, you're second best for big chances conceded, despite that fixture list. So what makes you think that like clean sheets won't be there?
It's the silly mistakes, and we saw both sides of it last season. And towards the end of the season, when we weren't keeping clean sheets, it was just the concentration just wasn't quite there, and that's kind of where we're at the moment. I think if Botman misses another couple of weeks, it's not going to help. Pope hasn't looked that confident start of the season. He's looked a little bit shaky. So until I see it, until the defensive intensity is back. I don't know if it's ever going to get back to that level it was. That was ridiculous last season. So during that stretch where we just were keeping clean sheet after clean sheet, I think we're in this weird kind of phase now where it's almost like the team expects to score more goals, but we're not being clinical in the last couple of games. And then compounded by the fact that defensively it looks like we're going to give at least 1 up a game. So yeah, I think it's a difficult time to.
That doesn't inspire paying 6.5 million for a defender, then, right?
No, but then as you say, like if you put him in, you're going to keep him in for the next couple of weeks, at least like that run that you spoke of. And,
definitely stay.
I don't know who else do you go to, like defense.
Well, you start looking at combinations, don't you? So like if I go for Botman instead of Trippier, that allows me to have Saka over someone shit like Mbeumo, for example, right? So I think that the money you can save there the money you save can obviously make a real potential difference. The example I use there is obviously not very good. But I think the other
because Mbeumo's got that little green star next to his name, isn't he? And Saka hasn't.
We're taking the piss, obviously. I think
not even a nibble over
it. We knew you wouldn't. The problem more for Trippier might not be, and I think people are Trippier versus Botman. Is it worth the 2 million more? And then you start making comparisons, for example, like I said. But it's more the fact that there are so many other good offensive fullbacks in the league who you can have quite cheaper. It feels like will really chip in at the moment, like Porro and Udogie, Ben Chilwell, Alex Moreno's back fit for Aston Villa. There are a few others who I can't think of off the top of my head.
Rico Henry.
Yeah, great.
Rico Henry. Unfortunately, Tom does not get the attacking returns that his play looks like it absolutely will. I mean, how did Mbeumo miss his cross against Bournemouth, by the way?
Should have had 2 assists against Bournemouth.
Yeah, well, hasn't Mbeumo missed that, mate? I told you, he's rubbish.
Well, scoring more points than Matoma.
But the point is, all those that I just mentioned, they're all kind of between the 5-6 million brackets. You've got all the Man City defenders in at that bracket, like Ruben Diaz and stuff. I know he is.
Who owns
but go on Elon Musk's app and you won't see Kieran Trippier in many teams at the moment.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, Tom, are you seeing Kieran Trippier knocking about in people's teams?
And
if people got him, they'll be well happy looking at it and think, well, that's saving me a transfer. I think it's more that. It's not necessarily Trippier versus Botman. It's Trippier versus Porro versus Moreno versus Chilwell. All these other guys are significantly cheaper. So if I was wildcarding now, I'd go Botman, I think. Would be my take. And it's just brilliant cover. And whenever you want to use him, like if you had someone like, say you went Porro and Moreno, if you had that on a wild card, you look at next week and you go, well, sod that. Well, I'll play Botman at Sheffield United. That's fine as cover, whereas they go to Chelsea and Arsenal respectively. And it works.
Yeah, I just like the upside. And I think Botman's got the potential to score 3 to 5 goals a season.
Yeah, I think to counter it as well, I think I saw a statistic that of defenders, he was the second most for chances created so far this season. And again, despite the fact you've had those 4 really difficult fixtures. So we know what the upside is for Trips, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and then like the rest of the team is just a bit of a minefield at the moment. So I don't know. It's put me off, but I was thinking Gameweek 5 wildcard based on my squad structure, go pretty hard on Newcastle players. But as you said, it's like, who'd you pick up front? Like, unless you went both of them, at least you're guaranteed to get 120 minutes a game between the two of them if you picked both. You've
also got to start both, haven't you? It can, and if you blank, there's every chance it's 1 point each, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
I think like same as last season, you're waiting for one of them to get injured potentially.
Oh yeah, if one of them did get injured, you'd be interested. Let's just say Wilson unfortunately did pick up an injury. The interest in Alexander Isak would be like that. You'd want to go there pretty quickly. So what have you got with Newcastle at the moment? Have you got anything or nothing?
Nothing at the moment. I was all thoughts of going for Botman next week, to be honest. And then to be honest, I do really want Wilson Isak, but yeah, as you guys have said, it's the same issues really of which one do you go for, who's going to play, and do you want, because I think the problem I've got with them is obviously, like you said, it's not that you can pick one, play him, and then he's going to get a 0-pointer and then you get your bench off. It's just that they're going to play minutes between them. So yeah. I do really want one of them, and I more than likely will go Botman the week after. I will at some point soon. I'll be getting a Newcastle defender definitely, because obviously the run's really good, and I do want an attacker. I just don't know which one to get, because obviously, and I guess it's for me. I guess I'll probably say Messiah. It's like, well, what's going to happen in the Champions League? Who's going to play certain positions in certain times? So don't know. Have
you got any instincts on that side? Because I kind of had the instinct to think Isak would get favoured in the Champions League games, but then it feels like Isak will get favoured in the Premier League games. Is that a bad read? What do you think? And I know we've got nothing to base this on, basically.
Isak's our number 1 striker. Wilson potentially is more likely to, and in the Premier League, I'd say more likely, and it's been proven in FPL terms, get more like returns. So I could see a world where he plays Isak in the Champions League and then gives Wilson the Premier League games and does that for a bit. As I say, I wouldn't be surprised if we hadn't had this international break that he might have found a way to get 2 of them in the team. I just think with the fact that half the first team has not been available, he's not going to experiment and he'll stick with the 4-3-3. I think with Botman out, I would have tried some other stuff. We talked pre-season about having like a plan B in a different formation. It kind of feels like the personnel we've got at the moment, maybe 3 at the back might have been something to try out, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, I could see it. I think the sensible play is just wait. If you can wait for that Burnley home game, we'll have the knowledge of have we turned our form around against Brentford? What's the team that was put out against AC Milan? And then Sheffield United away. And then that gives us kind of like a nice 3-game, but only 2 FPL game kind of window to assess and see whether it's kind of time to move on. So that's kind of now, having completely forgotten and about FPL for 2 weeks and not played my wild card, that's maybe like the week that I might be looking at.
Yeah, I think the problem is once you get the 7, and then
It's all
people
Liverpool
look at the
and
next
Villa,
week and they start thinking, oh, is it Darwin Núñez? Is it Ollie Watkins instead? Where those fixture runs for those 2 teams really come about, for example.
Yeah, maybe it's just not the time.
There is something I think it's worth deliberating, and we don't have the information at the time of recording, but there has been mixed reports in Paraguay about a potential issue for Mickey Almiron. Would that change the situation? Like, for example, could we see Isak play on that side? We saw quite a bit on the left towards the end of last season, and that would maybe free Wilson up through the middle. Or do you just see that as maybe Gordon goes right and Barnes comes in, for example, if that was to be the case?
I think it's more likely that you'd get the Gordon Barnes in the front 3. I don't think he wants to play Isak and Wilson together in a front 3. I think he saw it last season, and it's kind of, again, it's like, well, what are you saving for those midweek games if you're just going to burn both of them out every week? I don't think, until we've got like a run of just Premier League games, I don't think we'll see like him being put out to the left. And we've bought 2 wingers in the last 2 transfer windows. So I think it would be more Gordon would play on the right and Barnes play on the left, or they'd switch over. But yeah, it would be interesting. I think based on Miggy's performances this start of the season, he's been unlucky actually. He's hit the post, and then he could have returned a couple. But the thing is with him, when he doesn't return, that's kind of his tendency to be a bit wasteful in front of goal, kind of sticks out. And I think maybe almost maybe a blessing in disguise if he does miss a game or 2, just to try out that Gordon Barnes combination and see how that goes.
Okay. Tom, what Brentford you got at the moment then? You mentioned about you want to take Hickey out and get another offensive one. I guess you got Flecken, have you? I keep seeing you tweet about that bloke as well, so you must do, yeah.
David Raya, who? That's
not what Arsenal fans are saying at the moment, and saying, David Raya, where are you?
Yeah, please come in. Flecken, Hickey, and Mbeumo at the moment.
So if you took Hickey out, what's the plan then? Because
Neil Maupay, obviously.
It's scripted for you to have 3 Brentford players.
It is. I do sort of want to go on. I do want Wissa. I don't know. Like, he's not been unbelievable. I don't think. I think we're scoring more goals than we're conceding, obviously, and it's just sort of one of those where, it just doesn't feel like a bad time to go for it. But and with the idea of going for Botman next week, it's like you can get Botman. I can get my Hickey out and get a Botman in, and then have room for another Brentford attack if I feel it needed.
That made me chuckle when you said get your Hickey out.
This is a PG show, Si. Don't you fucking know that?
Hickey does seem to be all about the yellow cards, especially with the new joy of yellow cards this season. He seems to be picking up them left, right, and centre. I think he's definitely on 2. I think.
Well, I was going to say, if you had Rico Henry, would you be looking to flip that in the same way?
No, Rico Henry's been obviously. I joked earlier about obviously attacking returns, but in the Bournemouth game, he could have quite easily had. I think one pass was to Wissa, who hit the post, and the other pass was to Mbeumo, who missed an absolute sitter. So he's got
a great assist for Bournemouth's second goal, though, and that's very unlikely to make the mistake like he did.
Yeah, completely out of position for him as well. Obviously, he was covering on the right hand side. He was literally covering because of his ridiculous pace, but I think because of his pace, it's almost allowing Hickey to stay back slightly more so, and allowing Henry further up the field. And just because he's so quick, he can just cover so much ground. And he does seem to be getting in better positions, and he does seem to be putting in more passes. He had an assist in the first game, and then in the Bournemouth game he should have had 2, and I think he's had a couple of other sort of half chances where he's put balls across, and potentially we could have done better with them.
You had a game, I don't know if it was before you played Bournemouth or might have been before you played, must have been Palace maybe in game week 3, I was doing one of my deadline streams, and I don't know why, but it was so many questions about best 4.5 defender. And I kind of gave up on it in the end because the amount of times I said Ethan Pinnock, just kept saying Ethan Pinnock, Ethan Pinnock. And what I'd thought about it more was stuff and reflection and conversations we'd had last year. Also, kind of me and May going, yeah, do you know what? I think Hickey could be really competitive with Henry from a fantasy perspective this year. Yeah. And I don't we've seen any evidence of that. But just reflecting back on that period when you had the doubles last year, where really it was one of the centre backs was the way to go. And it's because of their threat from set pieces, the long throws will come in, etc. Henry, from a fantasy perspective, like I love him as a player, I'd get him straight in the England squad. I really would. But from a fantasy perspective, and I also said that you should have bought him as well. So, by the way, and I'm sure Tom probably heard me say that, you can have that advice for free, is exactly what I said. Henry's a bit all fart no poo for fantasy, isn't he?
No. I mean, so far, there's been a lot of talk about him getting. From what I've seen so far, I actually think there's potential that he can become that asset at some point. To be honest, you talking about Pinnock was going to be something I mentioned anyway, because he missed an absolute sitter against Bournemouth as well. How he didn't get that on target is ridiculous, but he is and will always be one of the target men when he plays. He will play. I'm still confident every single game, and I think he's our number one centre back, even though Ben Mee is obviously Ben Mee, and you know how much I love Ben Mee. Just with his age, and obviously with Nathan Collins coming in, I just think that Pinnock is sort of nailed 100% all of the time. Obviously, Ben Mee got injured at the start of the season. We saw Collins come in. I just think and obviously Ben Mee's also 5 million, isn't he? Well, he's probably 4.9 now, but I agree. Pinnock's a great choice, but I think then the problem is because unlike most people, I doubt many people are on double Brentford defence.
Tom.
Just me, exactly. More than likely, I'd imagine so. So then it's just, why don't you go with Flecken? Because he's, I think, for me, head and shoulders above any other goalkeeper at 4.5 mil.
Yeah, but people have got great goalkeeper options currently, like Onana and Pickford, so they're not thinking about that.
Exactly, yeah. Scoring own goals and conceding, what's Onana scored now? 8, 9, 10?
You're in seriousness, you're very keen on Flecken, aren't you?
Yeah, Thomas, I'm really happy that what I said at the start of the season hasn't been clipped up and I've been proven incorrect, because he's actually looked brilliant.
He has. Just waiting to press tweet, mate.
Honestly, I just sit there with all the drafts just racked up with just pictures of his face lined up. But some of the double saves he made against Palace, I want to say, unbelievable. That's a ridiculous save. He's looked really good.
But then the goal he conceded was a bit odd, wasn't it?
For me, on the Palace goal we conceded, which was basically a slide tackle from Anderson, I think for me that was more a defensive error rather than his fault, because it's sort of just like everyone just sort of left it and then sort of left it up to him, and it just sort of all went horribly wrong. But I think relatively he's been pretty good. Obviously the goals on the weekend, the first Bournemouth goal wasn't great, being at the near post, but the second Bournemouth goal, obviously there's nothing he could do about that one, because that's a Rico Henry blunder. But
it has felt, though, I think the Anderson one was a freak one, but I'm glad you mentioned the Solanke goal. And also, I can't get the Emerson Royal goal out of my head from his perspective.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he should, Raya would save that, wouldn't he?
I think so. I think, obviously, he's still also slotting himself into the team. But for me, Raya's gone, and I'm not looked at Flecken and gone, oh, that's a downgrade, if that makes sense. I think I'm actually looking at him and going, I think he's could be as good as what Ray has been. Let's talk about an FPL point of view. Obviously, he makes saves, doing all the passing. I think everyone talks about obviously Onana's passing. I think he's got like the most pass accuracy, mid and long range distances. He's been, from that side of things, he's been ridiculous. So
you forced us to change our pressing a little bit, because his distribution was really good in Gameweek 1, actually.
Exactly. So I'm really happy with him, and I think from an FPL point of view, 4.5 mil. I think especially if you've got Areola. If you're wildcarding, stick Areola and Flecken in, you've got a pretty solid. Times a week you could just go Areola another 4.0, but compared to the other 4.5 million keepers, I think he's definitely the best one.
So if you were wildcarding, what three Brentford are going to go in? Because I know, even though it's Newcastle away this week, you're still going three Brentford. So which three would it be?
Probably at the moment be Flecken and Mbeumo and Wissa. Wissa, because Wissa's going to play, I think, at the moment. So
If I'd said to you Flecken was unavailable for whatever reason, do you think you'd go Pinnock or Botman?
Oh, probably Botman because of the run. But I would, besides, I'd probably go. I'd go Pinnock because obviously I don't know with Botman if he's injured or not at the moment. So I'd just probably
You'd
for
go
a surety
Pinnock because he wears red and white stripes rather than black and white
Yeah,
stripes.
exactly, definitely.
You don't need to bullshit it, mate.
No, but I mean, obviously, so right now, I mean, so I do want to get Botman in. As I said, I mean, I'm taking Hickey out probably for him at some point, but I just don't know how fit he is at the moment. So until he plays a game, I won't be getting him in. So if I was wildcarding right now, then I'd probably go Pinnock, but I might also look to see if there's any other defenders about.
Okay. So what Brentford you got at the moment, mate?
Just in Mbeumo at the moment.
You're quite happy to hold that, I presume.
Yeah, if I'm not wildcarding, which I'm not, I'll be holding him. I went quite big on Chelsea last week, which everyone seems to be ditching them. So
you
got bigger problems.
Aren't alone, mate. Well, I'm not sure people should be dishing their Chelsea quite so quickly, to be honest.
They are. Yeah, no, I've got. He's performed better than some of my other picks, so he's not going anywhere. I think for at least a few weeks.
Okay, what's expectations now, Si? Has it changed from pre-season?
No, I still think we'll finish fifth. I still think.
Is that what you said in pre-season? That was very cautious of you.
Was it?
Yeah,
because I thought fifth place is Champions League still, so that's why. If it was top
75%, yes, it probably will be.
Yeah.
Subject to our shit clubs like you perform in Europe. Like if you go out in this group, it might not be, might only be fourth, mate.
Okay, interesting. So I still want to finish fifth. I think the loss to Liverpool, I thought that Liverpool would finish above us. And even though they haven't looked like the completely polished article that it used to be, I still think with everything that's going on in the different cups and so I still think fifth, yeah. We're good enough to do that. We'll sort it out.
No, you are. I think you're still good enough to do better than that, by the way. I keep reflecting on some of the stats I've seen. We talk about Trippier's chance creation, lack of big chances you've given up. The fact that essentially on the same four fixtures, you are 1 point down on last season. And last season included a 5-1 victory against Brentford. You actually beat Brentford home and away. It's not going to be that easy this time, is it, Tom?
I mean, St. James is always difficult, isn't it? I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't know how it's going to be. I know we'll do our normal bullshit tactics and make it as hard and as difficult to play as normal, but not sure. I think
Thomas Frank's tactics bullshit, by the way, just to clarify there.
Well, everyone else seems to think they do. I know Sudge absolutely hates. I know Sudge thinks they're the worst thing since sliced bread. So
I like watching bread.
By the way, West Ham are just as terrible about it, but it doesn't suit his narrative when West Ham are doing that.
No comment. I like Sudge. So
we're in the worst in the league. You're doing it. So.
No, I mean we love a good time wasting. Obviously, it's different this year. So we will make it as difficult as possible to play against them. I think we do that against the bigger teams. That's sort of the whole 5-back and some of the tactics that come along with it. So I'm positive and optimistic, I think is going to be the better word than confident, because I think it's obviously going to be a ridiculously tough game against a ridiculously good team. So
season expectations?
Sorry?
Are they season expectations are any different to you from pre-season?
Better, actually. I think
yeah.
I'm way more confident with how we've been. I know we've had some the draws that against the teams we shouldn't have drawn against, but the way we've played has been really good. I was as I said before, pre-season, I wasn't worried with Tony not being in the team, but I actually think we've looked really good without him still. I think Mbeumo's obviously taken on the talisman role for himself, and the goal he scored against Bournemouth was, Brian Messi.
That first touch is disgusting.
It's a joke. So I'm really happy with how they're all playing, and they're playing really well as a team. I think that's the nice thing to see. And to be honest, I think that's why I wasn't worried pre-season, but it was like, what's actually going to happen? And now we've come into it, first 4 games, haven't lost a game. Okay, yes, we probably should have won a couple more of those, but still think we're looking pretty good.
Is there concern? I know what you're going to say. Is there concern that you didn't get another attacking player in hold fire? And all I mean by that is, we know you got Maupay in. But we know that wasn't the target, right? You were looking at people like Bakayoko at PSV, Gonzalez at Fiorentina. You had an interest in Brennan Johnson as well. like Morpay's not profile like any of these players. So it's a
So-
disappointment you didn't get that kind of wide player, essentially.
For me, it's like, so, I mean, obviously been a Brentford fan all my life, and I've gone through all the crap that we had for many, many years. And all I know is that if Phil Giles has not bought a player for a certain amount of money, who's obviously our director of football, then he's not bought that player for a reason. And so I'm never really that bothered, because for me, it's like, and the thing I really like about Brentford is we'll never overpay for a player. We have a valuation of that player, and that's the valuation we have. I think the Bakayoko one was the worst one, because I think BSV actually accepted it, and it was actually Bakayoko.
Yeah,
that
that's
said no.
what I heard. They won their Champions League qualifying, decided to stay.
And that's fine. And to be honest, fair play to him. I mean, he gets to play Champions League football rather than come and play for Brentford, which fair enough. And apparently there's talk we'll go back in for him in January when he's out of the Champions League. So I'm not disappointed really. It's sort of the team looks really good, and I think for me it was the idea of getting another player in is purely look at now cover potentially probably for AFCON, because obviously there'll be a short gap between AFCON starting and Tony coming back, so we'll be very short on numbers with Wissa more than likely going, and I think they've already qualified. So
will Tony come back?
Good question. I've seen links with Chelsea. And yourselves, is it? Levy won't pay the money for him, so
probably not.
No,
but he also spends some of his weekends looking at Richarlison sometimes, so he might.
I mean, I've heard numbers now talking about like 70, 80 million now, which is just ludicrous.
Yeah, at least, mate.
I mean, yeah,
at least.
Yeah, but it's just when you thought it's crazy to think. For me, still, I just see that as crazy. You know, that's crazy money for Brentford to be getting 70, 80 million pounds for a player. I know he's obviously.
Especially when we sold him for like 2 million.
Yeah. And we bought him for 10, and it's just nuts when you think about it. Like, that is now changed, obviously. So I don't know. I don't know. If he does move on, then best of luck to him. And if we do sell him,
feel like he'd owe you the end of the season.
No,
in any way, if he did go.
I would like to see him stay to the end of the season, but also I think we'll get more money for him in January, because obviously he's only got 18 months left on the contract by January. So it's one of those where I think almost I'm sure he'll have a talk with the bosses, but it sort of makes sense for, if he is going to go, then go in January for as much money as we can sell him for.
Has he been around the club this season at all? Was he just like?
So
he's not allowed, is he?
He's not allowed until I think it's like
I think it's the end of this month or something. I think
midway through, which is just ridiculous. And it's, I mean, I could do a full 50 minutes on how ridiculous. You know what my thoughts are on the fact he's not allowed to train with the team, and we talk about player welfare and all that. But anyway, no, so he's back. He's allowed back training with the team in the next few days, and then he's allowed to train with the team, but obviously can't play until the 19th of. I think it's the 19th of September. Because the 19th of January is his first day back. So I don't think he owes us any. I think it's one of those where he owes us to make sure he either makes us the most money possible, or comes back, plays unbelievably.
Surely you're selling low though, aren't you? You sell him off the back of a big old long ban, and he's not played in a while.
But what about the other flip of it? So if he comes back and having had this break, he's not quite the same.
No, he's special.
I think he's outstanding. By the way,
if you listen to his he did the podcast.
He's short of confidence. We know that. Yeah,
he'll come back and he'll rip it up. I think.
Have you got any memories?
He's supposed to be left this season.
Have you got any memories of him as a kid at Newcastle?
Yeah, because at the time we had next to no youth players coming through, and even though he wasn't one of our youth players, we bought him young from Northampton. I'm from the Northampton area, so I was kind of aware of him anyway in the other leagues. So, like, good profile on him. Just I don't know where he's developed like touch and stuff from. He's obviously gone and learned more, and just he didn't get the opportunities in Newcastle, and didn't have like the qualities, even the pace. Like he was so raw at the time, like so raw that it was going to be another couple of loans even before he got a sniff in the first team. And we decided to, either we did or the player decided to give up on him, which is a shame. Like, given his physical profile, you'd think he was worth someone like worth investing in and sticking with. But yeah, no, really pleased to see him doing well. Always liked him.
Yeah, to be honest, Tom, that last performance at Anfield, I can't get it out of my head.
It's the most. Yeah, I mean, I was in the crowd, and it just was still. It's still just some of the touches and some of the turns, and Mbeumo's playing. Let's not talk about last season, but was one of the best defenses in the league, and playing against Sose.
It's not just that; it's that stage of doing it at Anfield, isn't it? And he knew how well he was playing, and everybody else on the pitch and everybody watching it knew how well he was playing. You could feel it. It's like that aura about him.
He's also come out and said that since he was a young boy, he's a Liverpool fan as well. So whether you go into Anfield and just went, this is where I'm going to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is where I want to show them all up.
I don't know if Liverpool will. So.
He's a joke. So I'm looking forward to him coming back. And obviously I hope he stays. I know we tried to be clever, and I think we did offer him a new contract during this ban, and obviously that seems to have fizzled out. The talk of that, whether that,
and I think that was a really smart move. And there's a lot of people at the time were like, "What are you offering the new terms for?" And it's like, you're going to buy this guy's loyalty. Probably put a massive release clause in the contract, more than what perhaps Brentford value him at. It's like, it makes sense from Brentford's perspective if they tie him down, because as you said, if it goes to the summer and then it's only 1 year left, maybe you're not getting the true valuation of the player, and in that circumstance, sure. Clayton made an amazing comment, Tom, to me after the transfer deadline when you bought Morpay. And it's obviously up. Well, I say Morpay, it's loan, isn't it? It's a loan deal to the end of the season.
Option to make permanent.
Is it?
Yep.
I'm interested to see if you do that. He made a brilliant comment. He said, honestly, James, I'm second guessing myself now because it's Brentford. He's like, if it was anybody else other than basically them and Brighton, I'd piss myself laughing at them. But their data profile and etc., there must be a reason why they've done it. Is it just the case that you needed another body in? Because he's arguably probably a weaker player now than the player that left you originally, maybe.
I think so for me, and I think I've tweeted it several times afterwards, but I'm not really happy we've signed him. I'm trying to how to word this, but I'm not really disappointed. So basically, like when he played for us in those 2 years that he was with us, he was like everyone, like the club loved him. He was like sort of like the first sort of, let's say, player that we had in the Championship that was sort of like ripping it up, and so everyone was like absolutely loved him. Left for Brighton, then obviously he's now moved to Everton. And I think the thing I looked at before I was having a look on, because I knew we were going to talk about him. He's put on Instagram as many photos in the last month that he's been at Brentford than he has for the entire time he's been at Everton, which was a year. And I think that everyone at the club loves him. He looks a lot happier that he's back at the club. And I think it's like a no-lose situation for us. Like, it's a loan, so at the moment there's no outlay, and we've already got the option to buy, which I assume will be ridiculously low. Bear in mind we bought him for 2 million and sold him for 20 to Brighton. And if he does come back and then performs even close to what the performance of the level was, so I mean, he definitely isn't going to come back and come into the first team. Definitely going to be playing as a sub. But if he came on and scores, if he comes on, scores goals, and we sign him for, let's say, I don't know, say Everton put a valuation of, I don't know, £7-8 million loan deal, we'll buy him and you can sell him on for some more money. I mean, it just seems smart business for me. And I mean, he came back on, he came out in the home game against Bournemouth and everyone was chanting his name and, singing it, and he just looks happy being there. And so for me, I just see it as, he's not like, I'm
really intrigued to see how it develops, because I mean, I mentioned Brighton as well. We must remember it's Brighton that bought him.
Yeah, exactly.
From you, right? And you do think, well, both clubs have had him, and there's something there. And with Brighton, it became a case of, I don't think anybody thought it was particularly bad at Brighton. It's just he just missed so many chances.
Yeah.
And then at Everton, he was just a complete bad fit in terms of club, the way they play, profile of him as forward, complete no. Do you know what? If he comes back to you and hits it off, it really says a lot, I think, about people being in the right environment.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean,
it really does.
Just looking through, like, obviously, I've always been a big fan of his, because obviously when he, again, like I said, when he first joined, he was sort of like, I don't want to say like the big star, but the way he was scoring goals for us in the Championship, like everyone just, I mean, I still love him. I think he has always had the potential to be the next step up when he was in the Championship. So I'd love to see him do well. And I'd love to see us sign him in the summer and sign him in whenever. and him to do well for us, but that is to be seen.
Is it deadline day you got him?
Yeah, deadline day. Literally, like it came out of
I don't know
nowhere
how,
as
Tom,
well.
you just talked me into thinking
It was random. It was one of
we
them. It was one of them on
deadline.
Yeah, no, people were, but no, people were
now
laughing.
I'm like, actually, yeah, it makes sense.
On
actually, like,
on Slack, it was
I'm
one of
just,
them.
I'm just a great bullshitter, Si.
Because you know there's going to be dodgy stories go around deadline day, and what the guys on Slack do is absolutely brilliant. They'll copy in the big stories and stuff like that. And it was one of them. Did a double take. That's a wind up, surely. It did feel, and then exactly what Clayton said. Well, but he's Brentford, so there's probably some logic in it. Like,
I think it's one of those where we need the bodies for, especially with like, so for example, if like Wissa got injured, well, we can play Sade at the top, and obviously then we've got Keane, Lewis, Potter, but then we're like right down to nothing.
It's
what
also
else is there?
Declan's last chance in the Premier League, right? If you can't do it at Brentford, at the club where the only club he's had genuine success at, then
it's
a
great move for the player because no other Premier League club would have touched him.
No,
I don't think. It wasn't like Luton or Burnley or Sheffield United were looking to take him on loan or anything. No, that's what I'm saying. It came from real left field.
I think it's one of those.
I wish him well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. It works for
I
Everton.
haven't got a problem with him.
Yeah, well, to be honest, he is absolute king of shithousery. I absolutely love him for that. He's fantastic when he does score a goal, if he scores another goal. Yeah, some of his celebrations are brilliant. But
Another goal.
If he finally gets that XG dam to burst.
He's got a brilliant statistic. I think his last 3 goals were all against West Ham or something. Hello, Suj. Si, have you decided you're going to wildcard?
Oh, I can't bother. I'm going on holiday next week as well, so I'm just gonna enjoy the Champions League, mate.
Do you think you will buy any Newcastle players this week?
I might do. Yeah, I just don't know which ones. I'll have to wait. I don't actually know. I don't think I will. I can't be bothered to do anything, to be honest. I'm just like, I think I might just roll this week. Just deal with it next week.
If you start winning football matches, that enthusiasm might change again.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's just not. I haven't got a clear picture of it, and if I don't have a clear picture of it, I don't do it. So I think I would still go in, even though other clubs have also got good runs. I think I just need to see. I need to see something more than what I've seen so far this season. And the Villa thing, I think, was an outlier just because, like, tactically, they just were. I don't know what Emery was doing that day. So I need to see something, and might be this weekend, might not be. We'll see.
All right. Good luck. Thank you, gents. Let's do predictions before we finish up then. Go on inside prediction for Saturday evening kickoff now. Newcastle versus Brentford.
I'd like to. I think it will be either a narrow win. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a score draw and the grumblings kind of carry on until like the next home game. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a score draw.
I'm just trying to keep a straight face. Go on, boy.
I'll go for a very down and dirty 1-0.
To Newcastle, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
We're saying 1-0 more pay off the bench, yeah?
Yeah, with a Brian and Mbeumo assist. Why not? Oh, no, Neil Morpay. Yeah, go on. We'll do that. Why not?
I think you'll shade it, Si. But do you know what? Brentford are exactly the team. If you are under it at all, you're in trouble, and you just wonder if mines might be on Tuesday a little bit. I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Some weird things have happened in Brentford games, like a lot of red cards and like injuries, and just like there always tends to be something like quite odd that happens in the games that swings it either way. So
Josh De Silva got sent off after about 6 minutes a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that's
right. Like weird stuff like that. So it might be.
Ivan Toney missed a penalty in a game against Newcastle.
Yeah, that's really weird. Actually,
I thought the apocalypse was coming. Saved, yeah, exactly. Yeah, saved. Sorry, saved.
Great Nick Pope, England's major hope for next summer. Cheers, guys. I'll go 2-1 Newcastle, I think. But yeah, I don't think too dissimilar to you, Si. Anything you want to plug before you go, Si?
Not really. Basketball World Cup's over with, and I've kind of given up on Twitter and X. So just follow Tom twice.
Follow Tom twice. Where are we going to follow Tom twice, Tom?
FPL Dummy Tom on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now.
Mad musings and absolute pro Flecken and Mbeumo content is very much what you can expect to see there.
Neil Morpay fan page now.
And Neil Morpay fan page. I look forward to your Neil Morpay revelations during the course of the season. Thank you very much, gents. Good luck for the weekend. I'm streaming on Friday, but the time of the recording, which is Tuesday evening, I don't quite know what time as yet. Next week's Clash of Correspondence is Liverpool versus West Ham with Dan Lord and Chris Stone. That should be available for you next Thursday. Just sees me to say thanks again so much to Sire and to Tom. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please, man child.